Bank of Ghana report reveals financial institutions in Ghana witnessed a 7.8% decrease in fraud losses, totaling 56 million Ghana cedis in 2022. I'm grateful that you could choose us. Let's begin our bulletin now. An Accra Human Rights Court, presided by Justice Nicholas Abodakpi, has, following an application by the lawyers of Charles Bissiu, made an order for interim injunction restraining the office of the Special Prosecutor or its agents from executing an alleged arrest warrant. The court has also stopped the Special Prosecutor from applying for any further arrest warrants pending the determination of the substantive matter, and also publishing notices purporting the applicant to be wanted pending the determination of the substantive matter. The order lasts for 10 days while the case has been adjourned to the 22nd of June 2023. Meanwhile, the Office of the Special Prosecutor has asserted that it possesses the authority to arrest suspects of interest without a warrant. The OSP clarified its position on Twitter shortly after a human rights court granted an interlocutory injunction restraining the Special Prosecutor or its assignees from arresting Charles Bissiu. Let's turn our attention to some other stories. And the State Housing Corporation has announced plans to complete one of its abandoned affordable housing projects, the Little London facility at Adentan in Accra. An investigation conducted by the Bureau of National Investigations revealed that the former managing director of the State Housing Corporation, Dr. Mark Ankara, unilaterally and without board approval, issued 2 corporate guarantees on behalf of Proteus Company Limited, a construction firm, to secure a loan of $1.6 million for the affordable housing projects, but the funds were not used for the intended purpose. During a working visit to the project site by the Works and Housing Committee of Parliament, the managing director of the State Housing Corporation, Kwabna Pia, assured that the facility would be completed in 7 months' time. Citi News' Ni Ayukwe Okain has more.
An investigation conducted by the Bureau of National Investigations established that the State Housing Corporation and a construction firm Proteus signed 3 development agreements dated 11th February 2013, 10th April 2013, and 6th June 2013. The agreement stated that the State Housing Corporation shall provide land situated at the Dry Pond area at Adenta Estate, Accra, for the construction of residential dwellings as its equity per market value at the land, whilst Proteus, the developer, will raise finance, develop and sell the unit to execute the works on behalf of the State Housing Corporation. The project was to be jointly managed for profit over a 60-year lease period. Investigation revealed that the said land at Adenta was not valued to merit the terms of the agreement. Contrary to the agreement, it came to light that Proteus could not raise the funds and thus relied on State Housing Corporation to guarantee loans for it before it could execute the project. The investigation also revealed that Dr. Ankara, the former managing director of State Housing Corporation, unilaterally and without the approval of the Board of State Housing Corporation, on 25th September 2013 and 5th March 2014 issued 2 corporate guarantees on behalf of SHC for Proteus to raise loans of $1 million and $1.6 million respectively. However, SHC board minutes from 2012 to 2014 made no mention of approval for the issuance of the guarantees. It was further established that SHC and Proteus signed 2 corporate guarantee agreements before the CG were issued. It was agreed that $1 million will be used for the development of 28 housing units, whilst $1.6 million caters for 32 units. Of the Adenta Little London project. The findings suggest that Ali Omez and Dr. Mark Ankra are culpable of stealing $1.6 million. Dr. Ankra has also caused financial loss to the state. The two were also involved in money laundering, having used State Housing Corporation joint accounts to receive funds under a false guise. During a visit to the Little London project site by the Works and Housing Committee of Parliament, the Managing Director of the State Housing Corporation, Kwabena Apia, provided details on the transaction.
State Housing went into a contract with the developer to produce these buildings. They were supposed to fund it and then complete it. It got to a point, then State Housing will get about 80%. No, the developer will take 80%, State Housing will get about 20%. The developer later on came back to State Housing to say that they are not able to find funding for it. So State Housing used our company as a guarantee for a loan for them to build. What happened was that the original contract was never changed. So even though at this time State Housing was the one funding it, the developer still got 80%, and then the government still got 20%. And the board thought it wasn't well done, and management changed. But then the developer sued that still they insist that even though they didn't put a dime into the property, they still needed 80%. So basically, we believe that we have a very good case, and I believe that the people, the developer, and the people who signed that contract, they should be in jail.
The Works and Housing Committee later visited other project sites.
We are happy as legislators, lawmakers, that there's an intervention by government to ensure that we have decent accommodation for our people. We are all aware that the housing deficit is in excess of about 2 million. Yes, we have a huge challenge as a country, a huge challenge to provide accommodation for our people. But when we see some of these interventions, at least we are a bit comforted because we see it as we have a future for this country. Because if you can do this as a state agency, can have totally decent places that people can live, though as MPs we are concerned about the cost, obviously, it's not about the cost. Because if you look at the catchment area, the cost involved, not everybody can afford. You must admit. Even the middle class will struggle to afford.
The former managing director of the State Housing Corporation, Dr. Mark Ankra, together with the private developer Leo Mez, have been accused of causing financial loss to the state and also being engaged in money laundering by using the joint account of the State Housing Corporation to receive funds under a false guise. Reporting for Citi News, my name is Ni Ayikwe Okain.
Now, motorists have renewed calls for the government to expedite processes to complete the Swami Interchange project after contractors began preparatory works to move to site. The Swami roundabout, which is the central point for the interchange project, has been cleared after weeds took over the site 8 months since President Akufo-Addo cut sword. Citi News' Ashanti regional correspondent Hafiz Tijani reports.
Officials at Urban Roads Department recently said work on the interchange project will officially begin in August. This was when the Ashanti Regional Minister Simon Osei-Mensah led a delegation to the site camp of the construction firm in charge of the project, Rango Limited. There were consistent complaints by motorists and inhabitants following delays in the commencement of the project. The leadership of the governing New Patriotic Party in the Ashanti region pleaded with the president to ensure work starts soon. Contractors are cordoning off the area as they move their equipment to the site. Motorists and commuters want the government to stick to the project's completion deadline when work officially begins.
We don't want it to be seen as a 9-day wonder. It should continue so that at least it comes to a perfect end, as the Bible puts it. I know that it's going to also benefit the whole nation. There's Swami Interchange. Let's say Kumasi alone is serving about 3-4 regions. You want to go to Western region, Afro region, Greater Accra region, and even Central. And it's everywhere, even the north, more than even that. So we are grateful to the government for maybe having kept the promise. It's been a long time.
Glory be to God. And also for the MPP, they are doing their best. They are doing their best, but we need more. And we don't want the project to be a standstill. We want to see progress in it. It shouldn't be like we are about to vote. That's when because the need of our vote, they are trying to put us on project. No, but rather we don't want that kind of ancient political stability. No, we don't want that kind of thing over. We want modern system of politics. That we immediately that you have been voting to the government, what you are mandated to do, that is what we are aspiring for you to do. But not that during election, if you try to bring this kind of strategy, you also vote you out.
Some commuters have also expressed confidence in the government to fulfill the promise made to the inhabitants of the region.
Hi, warehouse headquarters. Eti ojide se obe interchange na ma sana ne tama so amanako. Eti de mpabo na ese no. Erade e magana fo nyina yenka papa ne mpabo mu na. Wo mu adwen papa ma oman no. Eti de abamu mu yi. Nemo YouTube na yebon pese wo mbe bie nwuma ama YouTube no.
Asa ka na nka okwo ho a na wa ya ne ntam. Na wa wie de pese na aka se bi a do mama na ye ya kufu ado na ye ya. So hu. Sa mama wie ai Dubai. So obi aka se on na ye ya. He nti so o ya akwo ho na o ya ne ntam sa. Sa ye didin bo no be ma no.
Citi News has learned processes are also underway to evict persons occupying areas that the project would affect.
The Swami Interchange project remains high on the minds of inhabitants and motorists in the Ashanti region. As contractors begin to move to sites, residents want the government to ensure the project meets its completion deadline. Hafiz Tijani, Citi News, Swami, Ashanti region.
Now, over 5 civil society organizations in the education sector are jointly advocating for a 15% increment in the budget allocation to public basic schools. These civil society organizations are deeply concerned about the challenging conditions faced by basic schools, including inadequate infrastructure, a shortage of learning materials, overcrowded classrooms, a lack of qualified teachers, and limited access to technology and resources. There is more in this report. According to the Ghana Statistical Service, there is a troubling number of 1 million children between the ages of 4 and 18 who are currently unable to attend school. This concerning situation is primarily due to the insufficient availability of public basic schools. During a recent press briefing on June 15, various civil society organizations in the education sector, such as the Star Ghana Foundation, Africa Education Watch, and the Ghana National Association of Teachers, highlighted this issue. The press briefing served as a platform for these civil societies to express their deep concerns about the state of education in Ghana. They specifically addressed issues such as the lack of textbooks and infrastructure, the politicization of teacher recruitment, and the non-payment of utility bills in basic schools. Joyce Lanyo, the spokesperson for the civil societies, stressed the urgent need for an increase in the budget allocation to public basic schools. She proposed a significant increment of 15% to enhance the overall quality of education provided in these schools.
Increase the budgetary allocation to education from the current 12% to at least 15% of the total national budget using the supplementary budget window, and prioritize the disbursement of allocated discretionary education budgets to increase the low budget execution to at least 100% by the end of the current financial year. The anticipated budgetary increment in the above, which amounts to over 4.3 billion, should be, as a matter of urgency and necessity, be allocated to augment the hugely underfunded basic education goods and services budgets and construct about 5,000 schools existing under trees, sheds, and dilapidated structures.
Joyce Lanyo also criticized the government's proposal to allocate only 1 Ghana cedi 20 pesos per child under the school feeding program.
The recently proposed increase in budgetary allocation to the Ghana school feeding program from 0.97 pesos to 1 cedi 20 pesos is unrealistic and cannot provide lunch for pupils at a time senior high school who receives a budget of 3 cedis per pupil for lunch are even complaining about inadequate feeding budgets. This its greater concern about the medium-term expenditure projections of the Ministry of Finance and to cut the Ghana school feeding budget by 25% in 2025. This is equally unacceptable, as many poor children may drop out of school.
The executive director for Africa Education Watch, Kofi Asare, expressed his dissatisfaction with the government's deliberate lack of investment in public schools.
Government expenditure towards basic education keeps declining. 7 years ago or 8 years ago, about 30% of the pre-tertiary discretionary budget was going to basic education, and secondary education was getting 70%. Today, basic education is struggling to get 10% of the pre-tertiary discretionary budget. And so government must revise its strategy. Government must begin to look at basic education and fund it not from the angle of a token, but rather see it as a priority, just as it has accorded same to secondary schools.
Now, some individuals who have defaulted in loans from online credit facilities are speaking out about the humiliating treatment they have received from the firms. They assert that their failure to repay the loans was not a deliberate act of negligence. Citi News have gathered that some defaulters have been forced to flee their homes due to the embarrassment caused by loan recovery officials. There is more in this report.
The increase in cost of living has led many people to rely on loans provided mostly by online lenders to manage their day-to-day activities. However, for those who are unable to meet the repayment deadlines, they face various forms of humiliation. Confidential conversations with some of these defaulters have revealed that these loans are often offered without the typical requirement of collateral. Instead, the exorbitant interest rate, which far exceed the baseline, creates a nerve-wracking experience. But what does the financial practice say about these high interest charges being taken by these online credit facilities? Courage Boti, a financial analyst with GCB Capital Limited, shares more insight with Citi Business News.
There is no regulation on what the upper limit for interest rate should be for a loan, really. So it's a pricing decision, and you are in competition with others. So if you are offering loans, say, at 50% and another is offering at 40%, chances are a lot of people will troop to the 40% pricing. So you price based on your competition, you price based on your market and your clientele and your ability to maintain them or otherwise, really. But there is, I don't know of any cap on interest rate in Ghana that is that you cannot go beyond this one. There is a minimum that banks will charge, which is the reference rate.
The surge in online loan apps has also given rise to debt shaming tactics employed by certain financial firms to recover their funds from defaulters. Some companies go to the extent of publicly posting pictures of defaulters online and sending defamatory messages to their contact list. Kofi Ansah, not his real name, tells Citi News the humiliation he suffered because he failed to meet the deadline for payment of his loan from one of the online loan operators.
He called me around 3:20, so by 3:45, then I sent them the money. Then before I saw, friends started sending me messages that they have sent about me to them. But I use them as a guarantor to take loan from them, a loan of 200 from them. And that, blah, 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 they should tell me I've defaulted.
Kofi is not alone. Many others over the last few days have taken to social media to share their experiences with these loan app operators and how they have been subjected to debt shaming. Responding to this development, Madam Patricia Edusei, the Executive Director of the Data Protection Commission, stated that such actions breach data privacy laws.
In the interim, whilst the police, the Bank of Ghana and the Cybersecurity Authority are doing their investigations to track these app owners down, we are taking it upon ourselves as regulators of the data and the responsible authority for helping you to save your privacy. We are now educating the public about these apps, telling you to be aware, to be careful, to be conscious of the implications of downloading this app and the impact on your life, to your family and to your community and your workspace for taking these loans. It's not worth it, because if you take a loan and suffer such an embarrassment, it's hard to turn the times back or to build your reputation again. It's now becoming a life and limb situation as some people are being physically attacked.
Aishatu, not her real name, who defaulted on her loan from a traditional credit facility, shares her experience with Citi News.
GB, I want quick credit for my GB or quick credit for me. No, almost started Juma 2019, but we come when my GB bro 5 times. But when me J, you know, me who actually me kakra into a map mentimi into ya. And now omo ba mention omo ba ye no so no. Omo ye nipa 12 cars 3 in a bar. Nipa 12 in a bar ye. Omo ba ye mpona me meti abontin. And I me buy inside. Omu jina me so. Minfa me si camera nam so. Min crazy canibi. Nti mo da me metua. Omu se da. Omu se da bi. Emma. Omu boys ni nyina so mi mu. Etwe me wo fom. Etwe me wo fom ade mi pia bontin. Emma me nkwala me kire omu adwuma nyina. Emma ye nyina ye kwa bontin mo mo lock shop no.
Despite attempts by Citi News to obtain responses from these accused firms, they have been unresponsive. Meanwhile, the Bank of Ghana has issued a caution to the public regarding the operation of unauthorized loan apps. The bank has identified 97 such applications that engage in unlicensed lending activities, contravening the Banks and Specialized Deposit Taking Institution Act 2016 Act 930. Some of the entities listed by the Bank of Ghana include Flash Cash, Quick Cash, Easy Access, GH Lending, Acon Credit, and Cash Coco.
You're still watching the Citi Newsroom here on Citi TV. Still ahead. Former Electoral Commission Chairman calls for technology integration in collation centers to prevent election manipulation. We have details coming up shortly. Please do stay.
HIV in fear do no nine no credit na edin ye semajatum ebra me yen hwehwemu no na edro ni baabia adom ni nti mfiansia echi edro bai e wo Ghana
ampo ka abra no mfie bi echi na antiretroviral no ebi ni ho na anidaso ni ho ma yedache de ne adwene ho ani wu eda yanim
me ne wo fa ware mfie dunum ni ono so HIV positive mfie dodo anyina mu antiretroviral yi ena wiase nyina agi atum se yamfamre HIV mwawa nase hwe se ye ho ayefe ade ba akone se antiretroviral yi se wono ne pepepe se de ya kire wo na ekutia HIV mwawa no abosumi sia wo yehwehwemu a emwa ne brase na ontimi sanfa ma obi foforo na mom kai se obenum wedru yi
yes se nuanu mo HIV mwawa no bi se onum antiretroviral no ne yie yetime to asase mfiempim no ne adiasa.
Every father deserves to be celebrated. Let Malcolm help you brighten Dad's big day. Enjoy a whopping 20% discount on your purchases from this Friday 16th to Sunday 18th. Put a smile on your daddy's face. Make this Father's Day even more special with Malcolm. Terms and conditions apply. Malcolm, where Ghana shops.
You're welcome back. Let's do more stories now. And the former chairman of the Electoral Commission of Ghana, Dr. Kwadwo Afari-Gyan, has emphasized the vulnerability of coalition centers to election manipulation in the electoral process. He attributes this vulnerability to the excess reliance on manual systems for result tabulation. Speaking at a forum commemorating the 60th anniversary of the Political Science Department at the University of Ghana, Dr. Afari-Gyan advocated for the inclusion of technology in the collation of election results rather than the creation of numerous layers of collation centers. We have more in this report.
With less than 2 years remaining until the 2024 general election, discussions on how to ensure free and fair elections are gaining momentum. One area that has received significant attention is the role of technology in achieving this objective. Ghana's electoral processes have witnessed remarkable improvements over the years, from the use of opaque ballot boxes to transparent ones, biometric voter verification and voter registration. Technology has played a central role in Ghana's achievement of a commendable democratic model in Africa. The concern now is how to sustain and further enhance these achievements. In light of this, the Political Science Department of the University of Ghana, as part of its 60th anniversary celebration, organized a platform to discuss the role of electronic technology in shaping the future of elections in Ghana. Keynote speaker Dr. Kwadwo Afari-Gyan, the former chairman of the Electoral Commission, highlighted the impact of technology on Ghana's elections. However, he called for the introduction of technology at collation centers to mitigate their vulnerability to manipulation.
So voter tabulation sounds like a simple and straightforward activity. However, examples from recent elections would indicate that collection centers are the most vulnerable points in manipulating election results.
The New Patriotic Party has proposed adopting a system similar to Nigeria's, where results are transmitted directly from the polling stations to the National Collation Center at the headquarters.
I think Nigeria had problems, as Dr. Afari-Gyan rightly said, with their IREF, but I can say that by their next election, they would have improved upon it. So the better we start early and start improving, because we were ahead of them in the use of biometric voter registration.
Meanwhile, Dr. Shribo Kweko, representing the Electoral Commission, emphasized that the next phase of reforms should involve relying solely on the Ghana card for voter registration.
We are still insistent that let us use the Ghana card so that we address the issue of minors, because their date of birth is on the card and the citizenship is also on the card. So that will also in a way reduce drastically the restriction of minors and foreigners.
The National Democratic Congress, represented by its former Deputy General Secretary, Dr. Peter Boama Otukono, did not shy away from expressing the party's distrust in the Electoral Commission.
Now the IPAC has become a platform where the Electoral Commission come and give political parties information. And we have made the case that if it is only a platform to come and communicate decisions, then perhaps let's sit in our offices so that when you make the decisions, you write to us. We can read and write. We understand English. And for that matter, when you write to us, we would understand. And that is why we have boycotted IPAC.
There's consensus about the essence and importance of technology as far as elections in Ghana is concerned. The issue here, however, is the matter of distrust between political parties and the Electoral Commission and how they can trust technology to fully deliver elections in Ghana. Reporting for Citi News, Hansen Ajemani.
In more stories, the Bese Mancheni Ayibonte II has asked the Greater Accra Regional Minister Henry Korte to render an apology to the Ghana state for varying the terms of observing the month-long ban on drumming and noise-making. The Paramount Chief of Gbese says the minister has greatly offended the Ghana state by such an action. He made the comment at a ceremony organized for the lifting of the ban on drumming and noise-making at the Gbese Palace in Accra.
This year's ban on drumming and noise-making, announced by the Ghana Traditional Council, began on May 15 and affected all forms of noise-making, including the use of loudspeakers, drums, tambourines, funeral rites, and roadside evangelism. At an emergency meeting convened by the Greater Accra Regional Security Council, led by Henry Korte with the Greater Accra Regional House of Chiefs and the leadership of the faith-based organizations, an agreement was reached to allow for the use of microphones and public address systems at reduced volumes. But speaking at the lifting of the ban on drumming and noise-making on Thursday, Gbese Manche Ni Ayibonte II expressed dissatisfaction over the matter and demanded an apology to the Ghana state from the regional minister.
The former BBT regional minister, media recording, can now go to the tax name, cause so for I become the state of Kusu. I'm a baby. Moko baby. Media, I can't buy the house and where I live. No, can you more? And now, what you saying? And record the regional minister, I can have a school, cannot be. And in the Chonduane, any affair party, and then again. Your Tasi, I am minister, I am regional minister. Jay, you know, if taken, I don't know how she, minister, to forget here, and Yaba, get you now, Quato.
Meanwhile, the Director of Communications at the office of the Gbese Manche says all is set for the Homowo Festival.
That signifies the beginning of the Homowo. In a few weeks from now, that will be in August, 19th August, the principal jurisdiction of this land will celebrate the Homowo Festival. The Homowo Festival is also an activity to root anger. The Ghanaians have passed through war, have passed through certain journey, and they take this activity to remember their forefathers, their ancestors, and then ask blessings from the Almighty God.
You're still watching the Citi Newsroom here on Citi TV with me, Kweku Adriamansa. Still ahead. Ablekuma West Municipal Security Council earmarks a 2-story building at Otojo in Dansoman to be demolished. We have details of this and other stories coming up shortly. Please stay.
Become a household.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You Go Flip, a real estate gaming platform that allows you to play and stand a chance of winning a house or cash or consolidated prizes, such as savings towards a house. Simple and easy to play. Visit www.yougoflip.com. Buy a ticket to enter the game. Wait for the end of the game to enjoy the win. Anyone can win. Flip it or own it. You Go Flip. This advertisement has been vetted and approved by the Gaming Commission of Ghana. Play responsibly, not for persons below 18 years, and gaming can be addictive.
It's the dawn of a new day. The day of a
the competition. From the shores to the pools to the beaches across the land, if you fancy yourself a competitive swimmer, this is for you. The Citi TV National Swimming Championships is happening on the 15th and the 16th of July 2023 at the Trust Sports Emporium. To register, WhatsApp your name, age and contact details to 0558 973 973 or call 0205 973 973. The Citi TV National Swimming Championships is brought to you by Citi TV with support from 97.3 Citi FM and the Ghana Swimming Association.
You're welcome back. This is the Citi Newsroom here on Citi TV. In other stories, a two-story building at Otojo in Dansoman in Accra has been earmarked to be demolished by Municipal Security Council of Ablikuma West. According to the council, the building poses risk to lives of occupants of adjoining buildings. The council says developers must acquire appropriate documentation from the Municipal Assembly prior to initiating any construction. Citi News' Philip Nilate has more.
The caution from the Municipal Security Council, MUSEC of Ablikuma West, to developers follows plans to demolish a two-story building with structural defect at Otojo. This action by the council comes in light of recent incidents involving the collapse of high-rise buildings. During a meeting with the owner of the building and residents of adjacent structures, Chairman of MUSEC, George Cyril Bray, urged residents of the surrounding buildings to relocate before Wednesday, June 21, 2023. Mr. Bray asked developers to secure permits before initiating any construction projects.
It has come to the notice of the Municipal Security Committee that there is a building within the Otojo enclave that unfortunately there is a structural defect such that the building has tilted, and if care is not taken, within the next couple of days, we would have the building falling off and possibly killing human beings. Unfortunately for the developer, as we speak, the developer does not have any permit whatsoever from the assembly to put up that structure. So as it stands now, we would want to inform the neighbors of that particular structure to, as a matter of urgency, move out of their apartments. We are going to engage the 48th Engineers Regiment who have the expertise on some of these structures and the way to handle it, to come in and do further checks on the building. As it stands now, if the checks from the 48th Engineers Regiment proves that the building is indeed sinking and collapsing, then the building must be demolished as soon as practicable.
A relative of the owner of the building, Gambo Idris Wangabi, called on the assembly to carry out a comprehensive structural integrity test before taking any further action.
I call for that. I call for the integrity, structural integrity, and the soil test and all these things, to the columns and all this. And I trust my workers did a good job there, and I think when it's tested, things will be okay. Well, assembly, they are in a state of fear. They don't want anything to happen, so definitely they will act like that. But I believe when we go through the engineers again, something can be done to it.
Mr. Cyril Bray also added that some structures as Otojo, which have been built on waterways and without permits, will soon be demolished.
So what we've done so far is, since I came into office, I set up a committee to look into all the structures that are sprung up down there.
It was made up of works and housing, a team from wildlife, water resources, and all that. They came up with some recommendations, which we've circulated to all the bodies that were part of the committee. What we're trying to do now is some of the buildings are already done and are being inhabited. So we are looking at the recommendations vis-a-vis what is on the ground and what can be done. We have about 500 to 600 structures in there, and I can assure you some will definitely go. We are now going to engage the community to let them appreciate what our findings and all are, and then we let them understand the roadmap and when we are going to demolish, because we just don't also get up and go and demolish somebody's property.
The Ablekuma West Municipal Assembly has stated that buildings put up in the municipality must meet the right standard. The Assembly is also not relenting on its efforts to ensure that buildings sited on waterways are demolished. Reporting for Citi News, my name is Philip Latte.
This is still the Citi Newsroom. Up next is CNR Business with Nashika Caesar.
Hello and welcome to CNL Business. My name is Nashika Caesar. Now, banks and other financial institutions in the country experienced a total loss of 56 million Ghana cedis due to fraudulent activities in the year 2022. However, this figure represents a 7.8% decrease compared to the 61 million Ghana cedis recorded in 2021. The data comes from the 2022 fraud report compiled by the Financial Stability Department of the Bank of Ghana, which highlighted both attempted and successful fraudulent activities reported by these institutions.
In addition to banks, specialized deposit-taking institutions and payment service providers also incurred losses. The top 5 fraudulent activities that had the greatest impact on the sector included forgery and document manipulation, fraudulent withdrawals, check fraud, cyber or email fraud, and cash theft, commonly known as cash suppression. Other types of fraud included e-money fraud, ATM fraud, burglary, lending and credit fraud, and impersonation, among others. According to the data, there were a significant number of attempted fraud cases in 2022 with a total loss value of 165 million Ghana cedis. During this period, over 15,000 fraud incidents were recorded. Out of this number, the payment service providers sector accounted for over 12,000 cases, representing 80% of the total fraud count, while banks and specialized deposit-taking institutions recorded almost 3,000 cases, representing 20% of the total fraud count. While instances of staff involvement in fraud persist, the numbers have started to decline due to strict sanctions imposed by the Bank of Ghana and increased efforts by the sector institutions to improve controls and security measures.
Now, the government and the International Monetary Fund, IMF, have made substantial progress with initial assessments of the country's program implementation following the approval of the $3 billion bailout from the fund. This comes as the staff's mission's 1-week stay in Accra came to an end on Thursday. Here's more.
The two sides have been discussing Ghana's economic recovery plan for the past week. Various groups have been involved, including the Finance Ministry, the Bank of Ghana, Parliament, Labour and other interest groups, the President, his vice and other government officials. Top of the regular assessment included debt restructuring, revenue mobilization and expenditure cuts. Following the conclusion of this visit, an initial assessment of the program benchmarks will be conducted at the end of June to aid in the proper review of the deal in the fourth quarter of 2023 for the disbursement of the second tranche of $600 million. Also, the government has committed to meeting structural targets, with the IMF already confirming signs of macroeconomic stability, softening inflation, increase in international reserves and less volatile exchange rates.
Now, the business community says the recent adjustment in utility prices may have contributed to the recent hike in the country's inflation rate. They maintain the impact of these price adjustments also raises concerns about the overall economic situation. Inflation went up for the first time this year, rising from 41.2% in April to 42.2% in May, after declining for 4 consecutive times. There's more in the following reports.
First time this year, Ghana's inflation rate rose after declining for 4 times. The new rise in the inflation rate comes at a time when Ghanaians are already reeling the effect of recent adjustments in utility prices on the prices of almost everything. It will be recalled that the Public Utilities Regulatory Commission, PURC, approved an upward adjustment in water and electricity tariffs, which took effect on June 1, 2023. According to the regulator, this decision was made taking into consideration factors such as cost of electricity, increased expenses of raw water treatment chemicals, exchange rates, and inflation. Commenting on the effect of the rise in inflation and its impact on the business community in the country, President of the Ghana Union of Traders Associations, GUTA, Dr. Joseph Obeng, said more needs to be done to ensure the trend is not sustained.
The increase in the utility bills and all that has also added up to cost of doing business, and that's why we couldn't get any. Monetary policy rate is still at where it is, meaning that cost of doing business is also very high. That's why we couldn't see any, reduce the inflation rate, and it's very unfortunate because we are thinking that after receiving the IMF money and then the program having come successfully, the initial positive speculations that came and all that, the confidence that have been built up was going to see to the other indicators also following suit, like the exchange rate, the inflation, and then the interest rate, and all of these indicators have not improved since we clinched the IMF. It's a marginal increase in inflation. I don't think it will have any adverse increase in prices.
On his part, the Greater Accra chairman of the Association of Ghana Industries, Chunam Clancy Akalo, also indicated that the rise in inflation could stifle the growth of local industries.
You know that utility prices have gone up in recent times. You know, the cost of doing business has gone up high. The inflation rate is all-time high, in excess of 40%. So businesses are truly challenged. Our view really is that we want a lot more stability in the economy by taking off some of these taxes and some of these taxes on taxes again, so that it's easier for us to save costs as well as expand.
Now, the Chamber of Telecommunication is urging all agents and merchants to finalize their registration process before the end of June. The CEO of the Chamber of Telecommunications, Ken Ashigbe, in an interview with Citi Business News, emphasized that agents who initially registered as individuals should take immediate action to switch their status to corporate agents. According to him, making this switch will enable the agents significantly expand their reach and enhance their earning potential.
All agents, all merchants, that you have the end of June to complete your registration process. For some of them, these merchants and agents, instead of registering at corporate bodies, they registered as individuals. So they have the limits, the 10 limits. They can go to their telco, and if they are a corporate body, register those numbers to the corporate body. If you do that and you have 20, 30 agents, you can keep those numbers. The only thing you need is one director would have to use his Ghana card, and that will be linked to all those numbers. So the agents need to do that. But then also, if you decide that you don't want to renew your number back, you have mobile money on your account, well, the only thing is that you'll not be able to transact again, and that's bad enough. But you can go to your mobile money operator with your other IDs that you have, and then they will take you through some KYC, know your customer questions and all of that to ensure that it is you. And then if it's you, they would give the money to you either onto another mobile money number that you would choose, which is registered, or another bank, or they will give the cash to you. So there's no fear of losing your money. The only thing you will lose is that you will lose your number if you don't register. That number you might have used to do several things. Then the possibility that you would lose access to that is there.
That's all for CNR Business. My name is Nashika Caesar.
And that's how we end today's edition of the Citi Newsroom here on Citi TV. But before we go, a recap of our headlines. Accra Court grants interim injunction restraining special prosecutor from arresting Charles Bisu, but OSP asserts authority to arrest without warrant. Also, former Electoral Commission chairman calls for technology integration in collation centers to prevent election manipulation. Online loan defaulters expose humiliation and harassment by credit facilities, citing unintentional inability to repay. Also, civil society organizations unite to demand 15% budget increase for public basic schools, citing urgent need for improved conditions. Do log on to citinewsroom.com for more news. Also subscribe to CityTube on YouTube for more exclusive video content from Citi TV. My name is Kweku Ediama, and so many thanks for watching.
The main issue has to do with how much we can invest to reclaim the lands. That is the starting point. Most of the rivers have been diverted and they've lost their courses. We need to regenerate these rivers. The investment requirement for that alone will have significant burden on the state. And how quick we recover, in terms of the water resources, depends on how much we invest on recovering the land. Land and water is connected. You can't clean a river when your land is dirty. So,
do you have an idea of figures, in terms of
money, no, but I think it is going to be very huge. It will take a very long time for this country to be able to, apply in that kind of investment into the system, because we have to cover all this, I call them robbery pits. Right. And then we have to grow grasses, we have to stabilize the river banks, we have to recreate the rivers, and even that, we are going to have chemicals that will stay in the sediments for a very long time. We may probably get as close clean water to Ghana Water Company in the next 10 years.
The next 10 years.
If we're able to, to invest that amount of money.
What is the worst case scenario we will see in the next 6 months if we don't stop this now? You've said 100% in some areas polluted, 60 some. Yeah. What's the worst case scenario with regards to our water security as a country in the next 6 months?
The immediate one will be that probably we will not get treated water from that water company. They will have to shut down. The long term is that most of their equipments will be destroyed forever, and they have to bring in, so it goes back to the investments. But apart from just us getting water to drink, agriculture is affected already. We are going to have food security issues, not just water security. Economic growth will suffer. we are already in a system where we are struggling to see how best we can come out of this. So it is a complete system.
We are resorting to more expensive chemicals to be able to get to be able to reduce the process losses. If you go to Odaso, if we were not using the polyelectrolyte, we might not have been able to even get up to 30% of the water to send to Obuasi. But with the use of the polyelectrolyte, we are doing about 50%. And so at every time you have to increase costs. If you are using the aluminum sulfate, you will have to use, the more aluminum sulfate you put in your water, the more other chemicals that you put in to correct your pH level. So at all times, the costs continue to go very, very high. And I think that if PURC can allow us to pass on the cost to the citizen, yes, politically it might have some implications. But when people begin to see the cost, I'm sure we'll all go onto the rivers and directly get the people who are doing that damage away. If we don't take that seriously, I'm sure even our rivers will die. The cost of production